USC women basketball.
Welcome to the latest episode of Trojans Wired, the podcast, which is an in-house production of the website Trojans Wire. We are part of the College Wire Network. Back at you with USC women's basketball analyst CC Clay. Fresh off the win over North Carolina State, now USC's attention turns to South Carolina. Dawn Staley, national runner-up last season, and this is at Crypto.com arena, so it's not Galen, it's at Crypto.com. So it's kind of like the inverse of NC State. It was essentially a road game, but it was technically a neutral site game, but it was, in NC State's backyard. Now USC plays in that kind of situation. It's essentially a USC home game, but not technically because it's not on campus. It's at Crypto.com. So CC, we're going to get into this matchup, but first, just your general impressions, your general overview of South Carolina this coming Saturday night.
I'm excited. I got a chance to watch South Carolina in the last couple games, and they impressed me. I remember when we first talked about this game way back in the summer, or I did a video on some of these matchups, and I said this game is a toss-up, and I still feel that it's a toss-up. But South Carolina does look like a strong team right now. But we'll get into breaking it down a little bit more as we continue our conversation.
Yeah, so one obvious starting point for me is, we talked about how the front court rotations are probably going to be fluid this season. It's going to be matchup based. And yet, obviously, it was notable that Gerda got 23 minutes and her other front court mates far fewer minutes against NC State. But that was a particular kind of matchup. And so is South Carolina kind of going to be its own matchup, or are some of the rotational and minute allocation patterns we saw against NC State going to carry into this South Carolina game? Which way do you think that's going to go?
Both. I think it's going to be its own matchup because, Dawn is different than Wes. She likes to make a lot of in-game adjustments depending on how her team is playing. But then again, so do we. So it just depends, like I said, on the scout and if our bigs are coming ready to play and what the adjustments are during the game.
Well, so you talked about the scouting report. So, let's dive into that one. Everyone knows Wendell Farrow, he's now on the South Carolina bench. So he has the inside intel. He has a feel for what Lindsey Gottlieb and Beth Burns like to do. So South Carolina is going to have an advanced scout. And so a lot of the intrigue of this game is what's going to be Lindsey Gottlieb's and Beth Burns' counter to the expected scout that they're going to see from Dawn Staley, Wendell Farrow, and South Carolina. It's going to be a great chess match.
Yeah, I think that brings her the excitement of this, right? And what Lindsey's going to do, because she knows that Delhi has the entire playbook for USC, but Delhi wasn't around for those trips to Phoenix. Delhi wasn't around when we were making up this team. So defensively, I think that he has a scout down. Offensively, I don't know. What's going to happen. I don't know what Lindsey has up her sleeves, if she's going to do anything different to counteract what Delhi is showing the South Carolina coaches and the team. So that's the fun part of this whole thing. What's the chess match going to be like? And what's Lindsey going to do, knowing that Delhi has the complete playbook of what they were using for the last 3 years?
I mean, we can speculate on this until the cows come home, CC, but just like what's your general inclination? Like, do you come at this thinking, you know what? I'm an open book. I have no idea. Let's just see what happens. Or do you think, like, knowing Wendell Farrow and what he brought to USC, that there's going to be some kind of inclination or some likely pattern of play from South Carolina that Lindsey, Beth, and the rest of the USC staff can reliably adjust to? What's your sense?
I'm not entirely sure, because we have a totally different team this year and the makeup is different. So the offensive structure of our team is different right now. So we're not doing the same offensive plays that we ran last year when everything went through JuJu. So that's where the chess match is going to be. Are we going to use some actions that we used last year? Of course we are. But I think my focus has been not so much on what Delhi is scouting as is bringing to the scout for USC, is what are we doing to what are we going to do against South Carolina and their offensive threats that they have going right now? What is the game plan for that? And how is Delhi counteracting what he thinks we're going to bring defensively to the table?
Cece, this leads me to, an interesting set of inquiries. And one of them is like, is the balance of power in this game, in this chess match that we're all interested in, is this going to hinge more about what happens when USC's on defense or when South Carolina's on defense? Like, is it a game where you expect the defenses to dominate because they know what's coming? They kind of have a sense for the actions, the plays that are coming in the other direction, or is this more of a thing where the differences in personnel on these teams from last season could create an entirely new reality, and the defenses aren't going to dominate, or we shouldn't presume that the defenses are going to dominate because the looks are going to be different, the playing styles are going to be different. It could actually throw the defenses off. Do you see this being an offense first or a defense first game?
Okay, first and foremost, South Carolina again hasn't played a defense like ours yet. So that's first things first. And then second of all, South Carolina, to me, in my opinion, hasn't played as good a defense as they've had in the past. Tanaya Latson on the perimeter and Tessa Johnson on the perimeter haven't shown as good defensive capabilities as I know that they're capable of playing. So are they going to do that this Saturday? Are they going to do that Saturday when they know they have to? The last game that they played against Clemson, defensively, they weren't as strong as they normally have been. Do I expect that to change on Saturday? Yeah, because it's USC, and they definitely want to beat USC because they want to be the real SC. So it's going to be interesting. I think more so when we talk about offense, when we talk about the game that South Carolina just played against Clemson, and the changes that Dawn Staley had to make during the game, the adjustments in the fourth quarter, she ended up playing three bigs. She moved Joyce Edwards to the three and had two bigs playing down low, and she was able to get some movement there, more so defensively and offensively. Clemson wasn't hitting their shots, so it enabled South Carolina to pack the paint a little bit more. So it's important for us that we hit our shots. We have to hit our shots, and defensively, we have to force South Carolina into tough twos.
In talking about USC needing to make shots, anything in particular, like just as an example from last season, like if Rhea Marshall could hit that elbow jumper, it would really open up so much more for everyone else on the offense. Is there that kind of shot for somebody? Like, is it Kennedy Smith mid-range, or is it Jazzy Davidson, hitting threes? Anything in particular in terms of the kind of shot that USC is going to need to make in this game?
We have to hit our threes in this game, and why that's so important is because we want to pull the bigs out, so we're able to get our guards to dribble drive, or take it down to the basket. If we're not hitting our threes, we're not going to be effective because we don't have the post to score against their posts. So we have to be able to hit our threes to draw those posts out, so we can go downhill a little bit more and be able to drive and kick, or drive and make it to the bucket. It's important that we bring those posts out. If we can bring those posts out and open up the floor more, our guard core is so strong offensively where they can create their own shots that they'll have to play up on us, and we can dribble drive, we can set back screens, we can set Iverson picks, we can do whatever we want to do. If we're not hitting our shots, we're not going to be able to run our offense effectively.
And so obviously, USC has a lot of capable shooters, capable guards, but like if you had to pick one who's likely to be that 3-point markswoman, like does it need to be London Jones opening things up, or it doesn't matter where it's coming from?
It has to be all of us. You know what I mean? It can't just be one person making threes. Cara Dunn has to hit her threes. Kennedy has to hit her threes. Jazzy has to hit her threes. Malia has to hit her threes. If we can, or mid-range, if we can effectively hit some outside shots, not just by London, because they'll key in on London. So if they're going to key in on London, then we have our other four guards, Malia, Jazzy, Kennedy, and Kara, that have to be effective offensively. So we can't just put that expectation on London to be that go-to person for our three-pointers. We're all capable of hitting threes. Against South Carolina, we're going to have to hit our threes.
Now, this is a more on a general level, less about the matchup against South Carolina specifically, but USC had size last season, with Kiki and Rhea being able to play over the top, being able to lob the ball. How's this USC team going to move the ball against South Carolina's defense to get good spacing, to get open shots? The framework of the offense very different. Also, of course, JuJu Watkins not being in the mix, but like this doesn't seem like an offense that can use the lob pass and can play over the top. It just doesn't seem to be set up that way. What are just gonna, and just in terms of moving the ball and forcing South Carolina to defend all spots on the floor, what's going to be the action or maneuver that's going to help USC get the right spacing and the right shot on a relatively consistent basis?
Well, remember, we can post up our guards. So if we can bring our front court out, we bring our front court out and have our guards play post. We can go over the top. I mean, we tried it in the last game, but the pass went over Kennedy's head. But we don't have a problem doing that. It's just who's going to do it. I think as you see this offense more, last year our guards weren't posting up. Juju was the only guard posting up really, and Kennedy did sometime. But this year, they're not just posting at the free throw line, they're posting down low. So that's why we need to pull their bigs out and get our big guards on their little guards and let them post up.
All right, so in the NC State game, the challenge was containing North Carolina State in the front court near the basket, and the Trojans did that really well, and they didn't need a zone defense to do it. Size up, the tactics for Lindsay and Beth and the rest of the staff on defense going up against South Carolina's particular package of personnel and what USC is going to need to take away from the Gamecocks in this game on Saturday.
Yeah, again, they have 6'6" Ocott, and then they have 6'3" Joyce Edwards, and they bring in two more front court players that are pretty good. They're big, so it's gonna have to be win by committee, and we're gonna have to do our best to block those big players out so we can get the rebounds. But if we can contain, like I said, if we can contain their guard core and make them shoot tough twos, we should be okay. But it's a lot to ask. If we can contain Tanaya to just taking tough twos and not let her get her dribble drive off and kicking out, we should be okay.
One thing that you constantly mention, going back to last season in the shows that we did, was USC's defense. If it struggles against one thing, it's the dribble drive. How does South Carolina rate in that category? Because North Carolina State didn't seem to have the very best dribble drive component or capacity, and that played a role in USC being able to effectively contain the Wolfpack. So how does South Carolina look, from what you've been able to see of this particular team in terms of its ability to get to the basket off the bounce?
Well, I thought North Carolina did a really good job with their dribble drive. I mean, that's how they scored a lot of their points when the floor opened up. Their main guard that scored on us was doing a lot of dribble drive, and she was strong. With Tanaya Latson, that's what she does. She's a three-level scorer. She can score anywhere on the court, and so it's going to be. I'm interested to see how we defend against it. What are we going to do? The one thing I want to mention is when I pull up their why I keep saying we have to force them into tough twos is when I look at their shooting stats from the last game, and that's all I have to go on right now, is at the rim they were 11 for 19, and in the paint they were 7 for 14, mid-range twos 3 for 16, above the break threes 4 for 8. So if we can force them into those tough twos, that'll help us a lot. And I think a lot of their shots at the rim came from rebounds because they really out-rebounded Clemson. So we have to be able to box out if they throw up a bad shot.
Let's focus on some USC players in this game. Kennedy Smith, you always know you're going to get elite defensive effort and hustle from her, but her shot hasn't been going down. I'm sure that the staff wants to find a way to get her some easy baskets, make her see the ball go through the basket early in the game. What do you think is the realistic approach for making sure that Kennedy Smith can kind of begin to get into an offensive groove? Because that defense is going to be there, but how does she lift her offense in this game?
I think you have to remember that Kennedy is being asked to do a lot of things this year. So it's not just about her offense. She's being asked to guard multiple players of different size. She's being asked to um, run the offense, find the open person, create offense, and so on and so forth. But I think for her offensively, if depending on who's guarding her, if it's going to be Tessa or Raven, I don't know who's going to be guarding her, that we post her down low because she's going to be bigger than any of the guards. And we post her down lower and get her the ball and let her get an easy shot to open the game.
Another USC player I'm certainly focused on, and I know you will be to a certain extent, is Kara Dunn. And I focus on Kara Dunn, CC, because she got into foul trouble against North Carolina State, didn't get into a great rhythm. So like she's had a week, not only to, say, hey, like I need to bring it more, but also in terms of just studying that game and learning how she can be more effective at both ends. Like USC was able to win without Kara Dunn playing maximum minutes or having a maximum impact. So you got to think if USC is going to beat South Carolina, it's going to need maximum Kara Dunn in this game.
Yeah, I think what we saw with the last game is even when she was on the floor, even though she was in foul trouble, when she was on the floor, she was very impactful doing other things as far as rebounding and defensively. So I think if she continues to do that, her shot will come. It's just taking the right shots. It's going to be interesting because all of our guards, can shoot the ball. So I don't know if it's nerves. Again, one of the things that I noticed is, like I said, they have to be willing to take the shot when they're open. I think part of the challenge with our guards right now is they're learning each other, and so when they get the ball and they have an open shot, they're hesitating, saying, "Should I shoot it? Should I pass it?" And that throws one's rhythm off when you're thinking too much and worried about the next player. I think they have to get used to an understanding amongst each other that if they're open, shoot the ball, just like London does. Don't hesitate, don't think about it. Should I pass it? Should I drive? Should I just shoot the ball if you're open, just to get themselves in a rhythm?
So many interesting plot points in this game. One of them being, you just mentioned London Jones. She played South Carolina last season, so like she can actually give a little bit of a scout, not a complete one because this is a different South Carolina team, different roster, but she can still certainly talk to everyone in the USC huddle about that. But now we arrive at CC, like we always do this for the big games that we preview, statistical benchmarks. What are some targets you have in mind for USC to hit? Just as a reference point, against North Carolina State, USC plus 11 in turnover differential, committed only 7, forced 18. That was huge in terms of being able to bring home that win. So just as an example, give me one statistic at least, if not two, where these are the targets that USC needs to be hitting in order to beat South Carolina.
Free throws. We got to hit our free throws. We can't continue to be 60%, and especially if we're getting to the free throw line, and we need to get to the free throw line. So that's one statistic that I'm looking to see what happens. Are we going to get to the free throw line this game, and are we going to hit our shots when we're at the free throw line? The other thing I would say, besides rebounding, because we know we need to hit rebounding, is with South Carolina's style of play, are we going to be able to defensively create turnovers? And so I think we need to come out ahead on the turnover side of things, and we need to have more turnovers for South Carolina than they have for us. So I'm looking at the defensive side of the ball more than the offensive side of the ball, and free throws.
Yeah, I think my number one would be let's earn at least 20 free throws because that was not something that came to the forefront against NC State, and just it just figures that South Carolina, rugged defensive team, like that you're getting a really tough defensive challenge from South Carolina. So getting to the foul line is going to be a central path,
And and
literally
I-
and
and I,
figuratively
I,
in
I
this game.
yeah, and I think too that the teams that South Carolina has played, they played North Carolina, they've played Clemson. Those are two totally different teams than USC. So, whereas those teams didn't have big guards, we have big guards and we're limited on our front court. But like I said, we play an open style and we play fluid. So if South Carolina can stop us from being fluid, that's going to be a positive for them. But if we don't let South Carolina take us out of our game, if we're able to stay fluid, keep the floor open, hit our shots, and that's the only way that we're going to be able to do that, to keep the floor open, is we have to hit our shots. So everybody's got to be ready to shoot the ball.
All right, Cece, any other details, items you wanted to mention? And also, along with that, things that are going on at your USC Women's Basketball Media Lab and any of your other media involvements?
No, just, I'm excited for the game. I still think it's a toss-up. I think that, I would be surprised. Again, I want to be surprised. I think that USC will come ready to play. I think that they want to show that they own LA. And again, there's no expectation here. They don't have anything to lose. As long as they're learning, this is their third game. I think this is South Carolina's fifth game. So, I'm looking at things like that. And as long as we're learning and as long as we're building chemistry, my whole thing is, let's just get better every game, right? And as long as we look at it that way, let's get better every game, good things will come, So that's how I feel about that. I'm excited. Things I got going on my YouTube channel, a lot. Right now it's in season, so I'm focused on giving previews. I'm focused on giving recaps. I'm focused on trying to get interviews with the players and coaches. So that's where my focus is right now. Some of you guys have been DMing me about doing play breakdowns. Here's the thing with doing play breakdowns after the game. It takes a lot of time for me to do that, and I'm getting copyrighted. So because if I don't have the film, I have to get it from the YouTube site somewhere, and a lot of that stuff is getting copyrighted now. But I will try and get some film breakdowns for you guys as soon as possible.
And with a big game coming up, obviously a lot of things that need to be lined up for those kinds of presentations to happen. So it's early in the season. We're all working through the challenges of a new women's basketball season, CC Clay included. So CC, can't wait for this Saturday, and of course we'll be with you for a post-game show. Could be Sunday, could be Monday, but we will definitely be back at you with the post-game from South Carolina. And I would only note as a final point that having banked that win over North Carolina State certainly does take a measure of pressure off this South Carolina game, so USC can play fast and free, and hopefully we do see the Trojans' best effort against South Carolina. So for CC
let's
Clay,
have fun. Let's have fun. Let's just have fun.
Absolutely, get after it.
Learn it. Yep.
Absolutely.
Keep
So,
learning, keep growing together. Build that chemistry. That's what's important.
100%. So on that note, for CC Clay, this is Matt Zemek. Thanks for watching and listening to Trojans Wired. We'll see you after the South Carolina game.
Fight on.